You know, corporate divorces, they're usually messy, right? A lot of times, one company gets left in the dust. But what if I told you about a split that created not one, but two massive winners? We're about to dig into a wild story where a corporate separation led to an absolute explosion in value for pretty much everyone involved. This is the story of the Great Data Divorce. Okay, let's just jump right into the mystery. On your left, you've got SanDisk. On the right, Western Digital. Now, until pretty recently, they were just two different parts of the very same company. Then in 2025, they split up. And in the years since, well, you can see for yourself, both of their stocks have gone absolutely nuclear. The big question is, how? So, let's start with SanDisk, the company that was spun off. Its stock shot up by a staggering 871% in just 1 year. I mean, that is just an astronomical return, no matter how you slice it. And get this, it wasn't just SanDisk. The original company, Western Digital, also had a phenomenal year, soaring up 347%. In any other story, that would be the headline. But here, it's actually the smaller number. Just think about that for a second. And to really get how wild this is, let's look at the broader market. The NASDAQ 100, which is basically the who's who of big tech, it grew a very respectable 21% in that same time frame. So yeah, SanDisk and Western Digital didn't just beat the market, they lapped it multiple times. So this brings us right to the heart of it, the big question we're trying to answer here. How on earth did a corporate divorce, something that usually just creates chaos and uncertainty, lead to such an incredible parallel success story? What is their secret? All right, to figure this out, we've got to rewind the clock a bit, back to the split itself. It was in early 2025 that Western Digital made the final call to spin off its flash memory business, which would then become the new independent SanDisk. The whole idea behind the split was actually pretty straightforward. See, Wall Street was having a hard time figuring out how to value the company, mostly because it was like two totally different businesses that had just been bolted together. So the goal was to create two pure-play companies that investors could actually understand and value on their own terms and hopefully unlock their real potential. And guess what? It worked. That's exactly what happened. The split created these two really distinct companies, each one with a super clear focus and its own identity in the data storage world. So let's break down who they are. This table lays it all out really nicely. So Western Digital, they kept the old-school hard disk drive, or HDD, business. You know, think of those massive spinning platters built for one thing, cheap capacity. SanDisk, on the other hand, got the NAND Flash business. That's the super-fast, solid-state stuff that's all about pure speed and performance. It's what's inside your SSDs and SD cards. Now, between the two, SanDisk was always seen as the one with more growth potential. I mean, flash memory is everywhere, in our phones, our cars, you name it. But and this is a big but, that growth comes with a catch. It's a way more volatile, up and down kind of market. And I'm not kidding about that volatility. For instance, in the first quarter of 2025, right after they split, SanDisk posted a net loss of almost $2 billion. This is exactly the kind of risk that the old combined company had to deal with all the time.
Okay, probably the best way to wrap your head around their different strategies is with an analogy that I love, the data lake versus the data jet. They both manage data, sure, but they do it in completely different ways for totally different reasons.
On one side, you have Western Digital. They provide the data lake. This is for storing enormous amounts of cold data, things like cloud archives, backups, raw video footage, stuff that just needs to be stored as cheaply as possible. Think giant data centers. Then you've got SanDisk, the data jet. It's built for hot data that you need to get to instantly, like for your laptop's operating system, for gaming, or for real-time business processing. One is all about capacity, the other is all about speed. Which, brings us right back to our big question. If these two companies are so different and they're serving opposite ends of the market, what in the world happened this past year that made both of them take off like a rocket ship? The answer, and this is the real twist in the story, it's all about one single powerful force that created what's called a barbell effect in the storage market, artificial intelligence. So here's how this AI barbell effect works. First, to train AI models, you need colossal amounts of data. We're talking petabytes of text, images, and video. You just can't store all of that on expensive flash memory. You need a massive, cheap data lake, and that's built on Western Digital's hard drives. But then, to actually train the AI, you have to feed that data to the processors, the GPUs, at lightning speed. Any delay is a huge bottleneck. And that's where you need a data jet, which runs on SanDisk superfast flash. This quote just nails it perfectly. The AI boom didn't just pick one winner. It created this huge, simultaneous demand at both ends of the storage world. It needed both the giant, affordable library and the supersonic jet to move the data around.
So when you look back at it, the decision to split, man, it wasn't just good timing. It was a strategic masterstroke. It put both companies in the perfect position for a technological wave that was just about to hit the shore.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Looking at these charts again, they're not a mystery anymore, are they? They're the direct result of a brilliant corporate strategy meeting a once-in-a-generation tech boom.
So, the main takeaway here is that the split works so well because it created focus. Simple as that. It let each company just double down on what it's best at. Western Digital on capacity, SanDisk on speed, right at the exact moment AI needed the absolute best of both. And that perfect alignment is what unlocked such incredible value for investors.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've seen how this AI barbell effect made both companies winners today. But as AI keeps evolving and its appetite for data just keeps growing and growing, will that balance hold? Which strategy do you think will win the next decade? The vast, steady data lake or the fast-moving data jet?